This is The Bump, the one podcast SA footy fans need to hear, where the biggest names tackle the biggest South Australian footy stories. Roo, Dits, Bernie, Jars, Triple M's The Bump.
Oh, we've got Bernie, Jars and Dits this week. Hey, welcome, fellas. How about our two sides on the weekend? Remarkable football.
Close games, weren't they?
Incredible.
One got it done and one didn't. Again.
How far are you allowed to run, Jars?
15 metres, Dits,
Right.
last time I checked.
How far did he run?
24.
Isaac Rankin. Okay. So, the AFL's come out and said they got it right because to the letter, if you're following the rules, he ran too far.
Get it.
But what we discussed on the breakfast show is I want to point out the other 20 players over the weekend that ran that far as well. Yeah. One of them's Harley Reid, but we love Harley Reid. Want to see him kick a goal on. Don't pull him
Sharp
up. Don't blow
from
the
Brisbane.
whistle. So yes, they can say we got the Isaac Rankin call right, but what they got wrong were all of the others, and they should say that. They've got to talk about the
have to.
inconsistency.
Yeah.
So I was there calling the game, the Adelaide-Collingwood game, and I said on the rush out, it felt, when you get a game sense of when someone's just about ran too far, I thought he kicked it right on when he should have kicked it.
On the limit,
He
yeah.
wouldn't want to go on any further, but
No.
I felt like just gut feel,
Yep.
like I wasn't counting his steps live, obviously. It
Yep.
just felt like he needs to kick it now. He did, and then the whistle went. No one knew what the whistle was for, so it wasn't obvious to come back. But when someone does go too far, you go, "Oh no!"
You know
you got a feeling.
Of course you have.
You've seen a 1,000 games of footy, so you got a feeling. That didn't feel like it. So that just means we've got a vision or a goalpost need to come back a bit because we have probably let a lot of other players off, and the umpires need to say that. Do you reckon they'll be tighter this week?
But they've been hot on it.
With the highlights?
haven't they?
All right,
The-
Graham Corns made the best comment, I thought. What if it was Nick Dacos running along the
Oh,
centre wing?
play on.
Of course it would.
Play
There
be.
would have
on.
been riots in the crowd.
Play
They
on.
would have been throwing flares over the
Exactly.
fair.
But
Anyway.
let's go back in regards to how the Crows lost this game once again.
Good point.
So it's let's just go back and how they get themselves in these situations and they still can't execute it and finish off. So I said to the boys yesterday, there's a trend, and they need to look at that trend on why they lose these close games. So how do they get themselves in this situation? How can they finish off? Collingwood seem to be able to find a way.
Yeah.
Clubs, Port Adelaide had 33 seconds of quality football. That was about it, but they found a way. The Crows, at this stage, can't find a way to win these close games. So why? So why, Burn? There has to be a trend. Is it the same personnel giving the same output, which is fringy, bit average, below average, or they're just relying on Rankin,
Well,
Dawson, Saligo, and Tex?
I reckon you've hit on a good point here, and Bern, I want to expand on this. I think there are a lot of bullshit stats in modern football.
Yes,
I
there
think
is.
Champion Data's got a lot to answer for, and I'm serious about this.
Yep.
So if you're a real good coaching panel, Jars,
Yep.
who's the best team at winning all of these close games? Well, it's been Collingwood for the last couple of years. I would watch every last quarter of Collingwood and say, which 3 or 4 players lifted? What did they do? How did they get their team over the line? Because champion players always lift and somehow
Correct.
get the job done. And that's what I wouldn't be looking at champion data stats. I'd be looking at what do the best sides do that keep winning those games, and then look at the sides that keep losing those games and saying, like a good example on the weekend, what Hawthorn did.
Yeah.
You can learn from that.
Oh, yeah.
So that I'd like to look at those sorts of things.
Well, look
Ben.
at Butters last quarter in
That's
a
right.
big game
Except what
to
do
get him over the
champions
line.
do?
17 touches,
Yep.
clearances,
Yep.
set up the last goal.
Correct.
Collingwood, DeGoey, Dacos, Pendlebury, all
There
really
you
good
go,
that
Dits.
last quarter. But
Matt.
in saying that, Adelaide put themselves in a winning position. They kicked 8 of the last 12. They were coming. They were coming back.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like they threw the towel in and, we'll just lose a close one. They hit the front late. We're probably unlucky, but because it keeps happening, because it's them again,
The same players.
Well, you got to learn from it.
you've got to get better.
But have they Dits? That's the question. Have the Crows learned from it?
They say they do all these scenario type based training, like they, 3 points up, 3 points down,
yep.
got to win the game in the last minute, got to save the game in the last minute. So there's the last 2 weeks as a draw, and then a loss by a few points on the weekend. So they're not getting it right.
I'm still a big believer, and again, shout me down here. I'm a big believer in get your best players around the ball, and your best
with you.
players have to beat their best players. Which is what Butters and Drew did on the weekend. Get it out of the middle, get it up your end, and kick a goal. Find a way.
Got to be up there.
And
and
you can talk about scenarios, and we do this, or we'll play one in defence. But no, your best players
Correct.
get the ball and beat their best players. Now that's a very simple theory, Jars, but I'd like your response to that.
No, I
who
totally
have you got
agree.
in the middle then for Adelaide? If you're going your best 3 mids, who are you putting in there to win the game? We saw
you've got
Rankin.
Dawson.
Rankin even win the last stoppage. That was out. There were so many numbers live around that ball.
Yep.
For him to get clean possession and get through 4 or 5 players and then take the running bounces down the week, that was an incredible clearance in a big moment in that game. We've got to not forget that. That's a big time play, and we've got to remember that. We all remember him running too far, but to win that clearance and get through the traffic.
The Crows' 3 best are Dawson, Rankin and Saligo.
So you'd have those 3
Bang,
in there.
And then I've got a question mark on the ruckman.
So the last centre bounce when the Crows kicked that goal with 2.5 minutes to go, you've got Saligo, Dawson, Rankin in there.
Were
You're
they
probably
in there?
going up against
Dacos.
Pendlebury, Dacos, and De Goey played forward last quarter, had an impact, but he was in around the ball too at times. So you'd probably have a De Goey in there.
Who's Port Adelaide's? What was that last centre bounce?
Butters.
Okay, Rosie
Dixon
wasn't
was
playing,
out,
obviously,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I think it's obvious who's the best in there.
Well, yeah.
And bearing in mind, Will and Drew won the ball, so you
Don't mind having a defensive
You need
mid
a
in there.
bull in there as well, probably. You can't just have
He was
all
terrific,
sleek,
Drew.
silky skills, can you? But
No.
what do you know? It came out to Butters. Butters kicks it forward. Now, in the end, you could argue it probably a fluke, but you got to look at what Port did for the whole last quarter. Really,
Just kept coming.
just belted them.
And Hawthorn played safe. Yeah. They played in the
Port
Port
played
team.
that last quarter. Port played and reminded me of the 80s and the 90s of Port Maggies back in the day.
Yep.
Exactly. Kick
Get it
long,
forward,
kick,
get it
kick,
forward,
kick. Hardly
yeah.
any handballs, just kick long, kick forward. And that's how Port Adelaide played.
Wet conditions too. You got to get in
They
there.
love that
We'll get to
stuff.
Port Adelaide in just a
Okay,
moment.
thanks.
A lot of Crows talk out of the weekend. Now, you dropped a story about Tim English,
Oh,
Who?
All Australian
Well,
ruckman.
hang on. Yeah, well, I did say that he's a free agent, isn't he? He's available end of the year.
not sure.
Well, no, he is.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
you're telling me.
Well, I'd
You asked
obviously heard along the lines over the weekend that the Adelaide Crows are obviously going hard for him as well on Tim English because
right.
they need another ruckman. And look, I'm happy with the Crows being aggressive. You know, the last so far this year, haven't they? They've been
No,
aggressive.
they have.
Will Haywood.
Yep.
They haven't cracked it. They should have done this 2 or 3 years ago.
Yep.
Have a crack. If they got the war chest, have a crack. So yes, Tim English would be available. He'd be a great get.
Yeah,
He'd be a
what's he going to
sensation.
cost you though? I
Well,
said they
doesn't
had
matter, does it?
Grundy right there last
Yeah.
year. Collingwood still paying. They'll probably get him for 600, 650. A quality ruckman could be all Australian ruckman this year. How good would he be in the Adelaide?
Yep.
In the Adelaide midfield right now, he's another midfielder when it hits the ground as well. He's one of the rare breeds. They could have had it. Well, not could have had him. They could have gone harder at him.
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah.
Really put it out there. Even lifted it up to. If they get a Tim English, that's going to cost them probably 2 first-round draft picks.
Yeah.
Well, no, if he's a free agent, no. But they're going to have to pay 1.6 probably a year. 1.5, 1.6.
year?
Yeah, he's big. He's big.
CBA goes up next year.
It does go up, so we've got to move those
Numbers
thought
up.
process around that too. But I think it'll be at least 1.5, probably for 5 years to get him out of the kennel. So
So they could
they
get
could have
Haywood.
Grundy for half of that.
Yeah, you were a bit
It's
flat
like
with that.
I feel like
They
they
missed
missed
the
an
boat, but he was
opportunity.
never going to
there.
come
He
back.
didn't
though.
want to come here, though. Port,
Did
as
it?
you know, Port threw everything at him.
They
He wanted
did,
to go
yeah.
to Sydney.
Yep.
And Haywood, if they get Haywood, because out of the Crows and Carlton, so what are you paying Haywood? 800, 900 a year for a 5-year contract?
Yeah, you have to.
7-year
Yep.
contract?
Yep.
And then the other one they're talking about is, which I don't agree with, is Elliot Yeo.
All right, why don't you agree?
Well, he's 31 next year. He's played 45 games since 2020. He's averaging 11 games a year because his body keeps breaking down. There's no durability. And yet it sounds nice. He's a premiership player and he's got great numbers, but his body's letting him down in today's game of football.
All right.
I wouldn't go
Who
there.
Who should they go for?
Well-
who's the midfielder out there that's not 31?
Well, that's a good question.
That they should go
McCluggage
for?
available. There's a bit of talk around him,
McCluggage,
but
I don't-
he's inside outside. I'm not sure whether that's what Adelaide
Yeah.
exactly
Dix is a
need.
good question.
A Haywood's a sort of similar player. I feel could be.
But I'm not putting all my investment into Elliot Yeo.
Do you agree they need someone like that?
Absolutely. I've
They
been
do?
screaming. Tom Green from GWS.
That
Give
style.
him $2 million a year. There's the one. That's the one that's going to get.
Yeah, but is he available?
Nah.
No, he's not
Well,
available.
no, he's not. But that similar type of player is the one we need to find.
All right, Tex Walker commented on Elliot Yeo on The Breakfast Show.
We've been on the record saying that we're going to be aggressive in trade, and I don't know who we're going to get, but I'd imagine that the footy club are going to be quite aggressive and get some talent in to bolster our team. We're not inside the 8, and we need some talent and depth in our squad, and that's what we'll probably do.
got a bit of money too, Adelaide, so they can be aggressive, and they are being
And
aggressive.
I like it. I like they're being aggressive.
And you don't 'cause
Finally.
in the past, we haven't heard too much about Adelaide going after people. I know Rankin and Dawson have come to the club
Yep.
in recent time, but I like to hear.
But you
that
know,
they're
over the
being
years they've
aggressive.
tried. Like, I mean, none of this happened, but they tried to get Dusty Martin. They've
Yep.
tried in recent times Goulden.
Yep.
Like, they've tried some real big names
Yeah.
quietly behind
Yep.
the scenes.
Yep. No, I like it. That's
So
what
they
I'm saying.
do.
That
They do try.
And the second question is, why don't they want to come to Adelaide and play?
it's more the city, I think. The city, they're just used to
Is that the
Melbourne. A lot of Melbourne people. Once you go to Melbourne and live there, it's a bloody great city to live, and there's 10 teams there, less pressure. You can sneak under the radar a bit. It is a great city.
Well,
and
why'd you leave it then?
Well, I might go back actually.
Were you driven to the border and kicked out or something? What happened?
No, I did. I understand. I didn't get it until I lived there. Why
Yeah.
people don't come home? All these South Australian players in Melbourne. Why wouldn't you come home? But you got an opportunity. When I was playing here, trying to get players back. But
Yeah.
then once you're over there, you're like, oh shit, this place is pretty good.
Yeah, it's a football city, isn't
It
it?
is. It's a great city, and there's a lot of stuff happening there that you don't. Well, all
A lot
the
of
bands
stuff's
go
happening
there
here as well.
What's happening?
We'll live golf and gather round.
Yep. And then what?
York Peninsula, beautiful.
Wineries and Barossa.
exactly.
Now-
All right, Port Adelaide.
Right.
Now, in the end,
Okay.
this is a great performance. What they did in the last goal,
Oh,
I
it
mean,
was brilliant.
6 goals down and it's wet. The ball's slippery.
Yeah.
And I thought, there's no hope here. They've really messed this up. What a win. In the-
41
what a vic-
points.
Yeah,
41 points down on a wet day
Yep.
against anyone. Don't care who it is.
Yep.
That is
Well,
bloody
Hawthorn were
tough.
playing well.
Bloody tough to come back. They've played well. They're in form, Hawthorn. If
Yeah.
they won that, it would have been 4 of the last 5
Yeah.
hits they've won.
Yeah.
So don't forget that either. They've been going really well the last month.
As a Port supporter, should I be happy with Port Adelaide or should I be saying, gee, come on, you're playing like millionaires, lazy in the first half. Like, what are you doing?
The beauty of getting over the line is you got the 4 points, so you can treat it like a loss, but on the ladder, you get the win.
Yeah.
So I think Kenny, even though we saw Kenny, for me, he was a little bit too happy after the game.
I love the celebration.
Yeah,
I love
look,
it.
The initial, we won. Relief, almost relief.
Yeah.
We got away with that. But to keep going and, look, that's just my
Did you
point
think
of view.
he went overboard?
I think he went a bit too far.
Hang on.
No, I think
he's
he-
bloody proud of his boys.
It's about
It's
they're
excitement.
they're 16th. Jars.
41th,
You
I
beat
don't
6.
care.
You're 7 goals down
Well,
against
a win's
16th
a
at
win.
home, Jars, in the wet.
One of the great
Can you be happy?
comebacks
It's
of
One
all
of the,
time.
it's one of the best reactions from a crowd I've seen.
Yeah.
It was loud. It was enormous.
It was relief for me. So I would treat it as a loss if I was Kenny and review it as a loss
Yep.
with a lot of improvement
That's a good
areas.
point. Yep.
But on the ladder, you don't get hurt because you get the 4 points. So you're lucky, but you treat it as a loss. So it's not a positive review for me.
Went missing in the second half against Geelong and
Yep.
was missing in the first half against Hawthorn.
First
So
quarter?
that part of it's not
Jeez,
good. No.
deplorable. Was it?
Yeah.
Was it?
The
What was it?
start's very
6 or
important.
7 goals to 1. 6
Yeah.
to 1, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't recognise Port Adelaide in that first quarter.
I was thinking,
and,
when
and
are
you're
they going
right.
to turn up?
They mentally they weren't switched on. There was no pressure,
Yep.
and they didn't work hard enough, and they just
Have they got a habit of this against
Yes.
being a big heads? A bit?
Oh, they have.
Like being
Well,
a bit.
we
Are
all
they
know.
big heads?
Well,
You're saying they're big heads.
no. I just asked the question to Ditz.
Is it a laziness or
Laziness?
Is it,
Is it just think it's going to happen
Yeah.
type style?
So there's something there,
Yeah.
definitely.
Who you got this week?
North Melbourne away, Hobart.
Well, that's another one. You
But it makes it hard. I'll tell you why it's hard, because then Thursday night, Carlton. So it's about the rest. The few day rest makes it a tough
Adelaide
one.
had to do that with the
Yeah.
showdown.
So
they went
manage
to
some players there.
They went to Blunston, I reckon, to play North, and then back here Thursday night in the showdown.
Yeah.
Do you play Butters against North Melbourne or save him for Carlton?
Why would you rest him?
Well, because he's your most important player.
They
He's
reckon
your
he was
club
nearly
captain.
ready. He was nearly ready on the weekend. They just saved him for this
I'd
week.
get him
No,
ready
you,
for Carlton.
you said Butters. You're talking
Oh,
Rosie.
sorry.
aren't you?
What'd you
Oh,
say,
sorry,
Butters?
sorry.
Yeah, you meant
apologies.
Rosie, didn't you?
Connor Rosie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just sort of
Sorry,
read the
no,
writing.
Would you? And you know what? Butters might
I'm used
need a
to him.
rest.
I'm used to
Butters-
him.
But
I
Ditz,
think
Butters might need some. But Butters might need some management because they're managing players now. Like
Oh,
clubs
he
are-
doesn't need management.
I'm just saying
He
because
loves
the
it.
workload he was enormous in that last quarter.
Just
But
give him
Connor
the light
Rosie
weeks. Give him light weeks during
is
the
Connor
week.
Rosie going to play this week or give him for Carlton?
I think the word is he wants to play.
I get him ready for Carlton.
Yeah.
That's the most important game.
That would be the cautious thing to do, but
Well-
they reckon he's ready to go. So
He was nearly ready on the weekend,
Yeah,
I reckon.
to play.
Yeah, to play. So
Yeah.
I think
Okay,
he'll
okay.
play. Maybe take him off if you haven't used the sub till 3/4 time. Maybe take him off at 3/4 time.
But once again, look, we'll talk about this every week for the next 10 years, but when it counted, Butters and Horn Francis, my God.
How good's Horn Francis
He
been?
is freakish, isn't
He's sneaking under the radar a bit interstate.
He is so powerful.
He's going so
Is he
well.
in top 5 Brownlow form?
Not top 5 Brownlow
Okay,
form,
okay.
but he will be. He could win a Brownlow.
Yeah,
He's
I think he will.
that good, and he can go forward. When he goes forward, he's just as dangerous.
Mate,
Like he's got some real good
he's a
forward
brilliant
craft,
player.
kicks goals.
He takes marks in the forward line.
Yeah, he's one of those like Dangerfield, Dustin Martin types that go big body, can tear you up in the midfield, and if you're getting run with or tagged or you're going a bit quiet, go forward, and you're just as
How old
dangerous,
is
which
he?
is a
How old is
beauty.
he?
21.
Is he 21?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's
Charles,
young.
I heard you say something on the rush hour, and I agree with you totally. Charlie Dixon, when he goes into the ruck, changes Port Adelaide.
Yeah.
But they can't afford it, unfortunately,
No.
because his body... But imagine if he could ruck for 4 quarters, he just is so aggressive at the contest.
He
it
turned
changes
that,
it.
yeah.
Yep.
He turned the whole dynamic.
But he's
of that
been doing
last
this for a
quarter.
couple of years,
Yeah,
I
he
reckon.
has.
When he gets his little spot in the ruck,
Yep.
geez, good.
And
Can
good
you find
coaching
someone
move.
else? Ollie Lord, can he play forward and Dixon in the right? Or do you reckon he just
I
he
think
can't
Charlie
handle
won't
the
be able
workload?
to do it.
Yep.
Which is a shame.
Physically, he's no.
Because when he goes
God,
in
he's
there,
good
he's
in-
great.
And he,
So when
But do you like Vizentini?
I do. Yep. Who rucks this week?
Jordan Sweet,
See, Vizentini probably got beaten on the
Yeah.
weekend.
I do like him.
But they've got to look. His game against Geelong was great, and maybe they've got to. You can't just sack him after a week. I don't
I'd
think.
back
But
him
he
in.
did get beat. Meek was all over him.
Meek's
wasn't
a
he?
Meek's
very good
big-
ruckman. He's a big
big
boy.
ruckman, yeah.
Jeez, he's a good player.
But I like when it hit the ground though. Vizentini's
Follow
having
up.
a go.
Yeah.
His
Back
skills
him
are
in.
good.
Who's North Melbourne's ruckman?
Sherry.
Sherry, young bloke.
Yeah.
Well, there you
Yeah,
go.
20, 25.
another week.
probably
Give him another
25.
go. Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah. Well done.
Give me your assessment of Port Adelaide. What
At the moment,
Yeah.
Well, your top four. The next month's going to be really important.
But are they top 4 come the end of the year?
Nah.
No,
Not the
a
way
worry.
they're going at the moment.
no.
That's a worry.
Right now, 7th or 8th team, I reckon.
Yeah.
Just getting
That's
over the
about-
line. They're
that's where
covering
I-
up a few cracks, just getting away with a few things, I reckon.
Yeah, that's where I'd see him. And
Need to make a big statement. I mean, this weekend's not a big statement game. Just got to get that done.
Carlton
They'll
will
win
be.
this
Carlton at
weekend.
home.
Carlton at home. Big statement game, that.
Yep.
Big test. We've seen Port Adelaide fail in the big
That's
test.
right.
So that is, I know you don't want to look too far ahead, but
No,
next
that's the test.
Thursday
for
night.
you, it's not about the home and away. It's get yourself in a position at the end of the year to play some finals, and then the final series will be where you're going to be judged.
You
it's
want a
not
double
about the home and
chance,
away.
If you can get a double
double
chance,
chance.
geez, it helps.
Then we can put a spotlight on Alberton.
Yeah. The big story in
Yes.
Adelaide at the moment, though, is Port Noarlunga.
Right.
Isn't it?
No, we're not.
No, come
And
on.
the,
Serious.
the
The lid's on.
Gee.
humble is just a word that can't be spelt down there. They've never heard
There's
of
no,
it.
I've got to
there's
say-
no humility.
The lid's
Forget
on
that.
dits.
Forget that.
Humble, they reckon, starts with a
Gee.
with a P.
Yeah.
Premiership.
Gee.
With a T, tumble.
They've printed the T-shirt.
Oh,
They got the hats.
I got a hat.
Yeah.
And I didn't even.
Oh, you got a hat,
Yeah,
have
someone
you?
sent me one.
Yeah.
What's his name? The fines master. He sent me one for having him on the other day.
Fitzy.
They've booked the
Fitzy.
hotel, the Premiership dinner.
Yeah.
They've booked the hotel.
I'm speaking at
It's
it.
sold out. I've been asked to MC.
Yeah. You're interviewing me, Dit, so we know it's
I didn't know
happening.
you blokes were there
There's
anyway.
a street
Anyway,
parade.
All right.
Have a good week at the footy.
See you later.
You know, you're looking for a bit of a spark or a bit of a lightning rod. Well, that's what I'm on radio for.
Roo, Dits, Bernie, Jars. Triple M's The Bump.